Whether you call it camp, the cottage, or cabin, millions of Canadians are gearing up for the summer outdoor season. But while we all enjoy jumping in the lake or hiking through the trails, the beauty of outdoor living may be in danger. Cottage Life magazine is encouraging Canadians to grow it forward by planting a native tree. Here to tell us more is Dan Kraus, Senior Director of the Nature Conservancy of Canada. Dan, thanks so much for being here.
Good morning, Kelsey.
So why is outdoor living or cottage country, why is it in danger?
You know, so many of the places that Canadians escape to find nature, be it we call it our cottages, our camps, our cabins, they're the same places where the Nature Conservancy of Canada is working. And there's two reasons for that. The first reason is that they're really important places for nature. So you look at places like the shorelines of Bay of Fundy or Prince Edward Island, they're really important for migratory shorebirds. Georgian Bay in Ontario has the longest freshwater coastline in the world. And then out west, places like the Okanagan Valley that people go to has one of the highest concentrations of rare species in all of Canada. These are really, really important places. The other reason is because there's urgency. They are getting to be endangered. Canada has over 700 endangered species now. We're seeing increasing habitat loss and fragmentation. People at the cottage in southern Ontario along Lake Erie, that's a place where we've lost 72% of all of the wetlands. We have invasive species, we have declining water quality. But the good news is there are things that we can do to help to protect and restore those habitats.
Yes, and we're going to hook you up with those tips right now. One of them is native planting. And so you've got some examples over here of what we can do? Yeah,
so a couple different examples. You know, so often we plant species that aren't native to a particular area, but we do have this incredible collection of native species that we can plant that are really important for nature and really important for people. So a great example here, this is called a pin cherry.
Okay.
So it has, their classic cherry blossoms in the spring. This is a really important species for wildlife. Songbirds like to nest in it, and also it does get covered with cherries. Actually, the other common name for pin cherry is bird cherry.
Okay.
Because birds love to eat it. And the cherries are in the late summer or in the fall when a lot of birds are starting to migrate. So it really gives them a great fuel source before they embark in their migration.
It's food for the road.
Food for the road. Another example over here, a couple grasses. This is a kind of nondescript, but this is a really important native grass called Canada blue joint. If you look really closely, you can see kind of these blue areas in the grass.
Yeah.
This occurs across cottage country in Canada. Very important for waterfowl. Also really important because you can see how thick these roots are. It helps to hold shorelines and prevent erosion.
For sure.
Yeah.
What about the bees and the butterflies?
So the bees and the butterflies, our pollinators are declining, and they're really important for people and for ecosystems. Pollinators pollinate our crops, but they also pollinate many species of wildflowers, shrubs, and trees as well.
Okay. So we want to obviously get our plants ready for them. Is there anything specific you'd recommend?
One thing we can do is plant native wildflowers for our native pollinators. So an example here, it's not quite flowering yet, but this is a plant called wild columbine. So grows throughout eastern North America, gets these beautiful red flowers on it that are pollinated by butterflies and also by hummingbirds. And it's our native plants that are best for our native pollinators.
Amazing. Dan, how is water quality impacted by us being there and then by the work we can do to fix it?
Yeah, water is so important when you go to your cottage or your camp. And there's nothing worse than wanting to go for a swim and seeing algae on the water. And so often those problems in the water are caused by what we do on the land. So our native forests and wetlands are very important for cleaning water before it gets into our lakes and into our rivers. One of the most important things we can do is to protect that shoreline area. So that habitat with trees, shrubs, and wildflowers, because it provides habitat for wildlife, everything from fish and frogs to mink and moose, but it also helps to hold the soil so there's no erosion and clean water before it gets into our lakes and into our rivers.
Well, if it's chock full of plants, we're going to stay away from it too, because it just keeps us off the shoreline, so it's good. It helps in all ways, I imagine. Yeah,
and certainly, we want people to enjoy their shorelines, but by keeping part of it natural, you really are helping nature, and you're helping yourself by keeping the water clean as well.
So let's restore those shorelines. You've got something we can do.
Absolutely. So, if you have a healthy shoreline with lots of wildflowers and trees and shrubs, the best thing you can do is just leave it alone.
Okay.
But there are times when shorelines need our help. At the Nature Conservancy of Canada, we sometimes buy properties where we need to restore the shoreline. So I want to show you a couple of things that we do.
Okay.
The first one is kind of cool. It's called live staking.
Okay.
So there's a bunch of shrubs, including things like, what this one is?
Yeah, pussy willow.
Pussy willow, dogwood, where in nature, if a branch breaks off and it washes up onto a shore, it will naturally root.
Okay.
So the only thing you have to do to make a live stake is find a shrub growing along the shore, and you cut a branch off.
Okay.
And just like that.
Okay.
And you stick it into the ground.
It's so easy. Look at that, Canada.
That's
I'm saving
it.
our shoreline just like that.
Changing the future.
Amazing.
And here's one that I started a while ago, and you can actually see the roots that are growing on it. So this is a great way to help nature and to help us to restore our shorelines, is doing these live stakes.
Dan, we are all out of time, but the other option is to obviously plant.
Absolutely. And our friends at Cottage Life provided these seedlings for their Grow It Forward program.
They're beautiful.
And you know, what a better way to celebrate Canada's 150th birthday than planting a tree, and especially one of our native Canadian trees.
I love it. We got to do everything we can to save our planet. Dan, thank you so much. There will be more information on our website, yourmorning.ca. And hey, if you're in the Toronto area, you can check out the Spring Cottage Life Show at the International Centre this weekend.